Let's give this code words thing a listen here. While we listen, we're going to play some Breath of the Wild 1. Should just be in the background. Won't bother you too much. You never played before.
So I remember when I was in school, in elementary school, we were taught that we were all going to be frozen over by an ice age. And of course, this was terrifying. And then in the 80s, it was acid rain.
That's just a lie. That whole frozen over by an ice age. There's one article that suggested there might be global cooling at some point in the 70s, I think. That was quickly debunked. There are like a billion articles about global warming happening right now, and there is no debunking this. It's just factually true that global warming is happening. And that acid rain thing, that's real too. That was really happening. A lot of these problems have been solved, though. The ozone layer being destroyed, we came together as a world and solved that. We banned chlorofluorocarbon, CFCs. That's what was causing it. It was the, what do you call it? Like the material in aerosol cans that was responsible for propelling whatever was in those cans out, basically. CFCs. So the more people used like spray cans or like hairspray or whatever, the more they used those things, the worse the hole in the ozone layer became. But we came together and we changed the way that we do this by using pump action or pressurized or whatever. Billion different options with this. And we succeeded. The ozone layer is closed up again. The hole that was there is closed up in large part. So like all of the things that she's listing were real problems that we really solved. And she's using this as like a gotcha, like, hey, check it out. We aren't dealing with these problems now as a basis for claiming that like they never existed. Like what?
We were all going to die from the acid rain. And then
I don't think anyone said you're going to die from it.
moved to global warming, which I think, most of the people watching this tape will remember. That was during the Obama administration.
Yes.
And then science comes along and disproves the global warming theory.
No, it didn't. Global warming is real.
In large part, and we have one of the most frigid winters ever known.
Tell me you don't understand climate change without saying it.
And then the next thing you know, they're calling it climate change. Now, I always understood that climate change meant seasons.
Okay, well, you were wrong.
Climate does change all the time, but of course that's not.
No, climate doesn't change all of the time. She doesn't understand this, like at all. God, this is embarrassing.
I always understood that climate change meant seasons. Our climate does change all the time, but of course that's not what's meant by the left. What do you think about all of about the left's words and definitions in the environment?
It's a great point, Katie. They don't stop. Climate change allegedly is everywhere. And if the American
It is. It's everywhere. Climate change is everywhere. We should be scared. Is it hiding under my bed?
change allegedly is everywhere. And if the American people elect a conservative president, his administration will have to eradicate climate change references from absolutely everywhere. And according to our intelligence community,
like controlling language here. You're catching this, right?
where? And according to our intelligence community, the number one threat facing our country today is, drumroll, climate change. Not Russia, not China, not AI, climate change.
Yeah, that's accurate. You know why? Because Florida is going to go underwater at some point in the next 50 to 100 years. We're going to lose Florida eventually. Not all of it, probably, but large swaths. Miami, maybe, unless we do something about it to fix the problem. Unless we, I don't know, what, build up like retaining walls to prevent water from getting in or something, we're going to lose population centers because, I could be wrong, I believe the majority of the United States population lives on the water. Like they live near water, right? Like, so Los Angeles, I think, is near water, right? New York City, near water. It's all heavily concentrated near water sources because there was ample opportunity for fishing and things like that back in the day. Anyway, those places are going to suffer the most from climate change. And we're going to have to find a way to resolve this problem, or we're going to lose tons of people. We're going to have climate refugees. To my knowledge, we already do have some, like from hurricanes and stuff that wouldn't have happened or wouldn't have been as bad as they were if not for climate change issues. So anyway, point is, yes, it is a serious problem that we need to be focused on.
Climate change activists wield a lot of power. This is an issue to pay attention to as it has infiltrated every part of the federal government. Now, when I think of climate change, I immediately think of population control, don't you?
No? Population control? Where'd that come from? What is the downside to working on resolving climate change? What's the bad part about this? You know, one really good way of like helping to resolve this problem faster? Building out fully renewable energy infrastructure. So building like an electrical grid that's based on nuclear power and wind power and solar power and hydroelectric and stuff like that. Any number of different things. That's a phenomenally good solution to climate change, or a solution to like mitigate the negative effects or whatever right now. And it would lead to energy independence. So we're digging like, I think like 16 million barrels of oil out of the ground right now per day. What is the downside to building out energy independent infrastructure so that instead of using those barrels of oil, we can sell them to foreign countries and get even richer? What's the downside? I don't understand. What are we complaining about here? Why would you not do that? I can only think of one reason why the far right, who traditionally represents moneyed interests, billionaires and things, I can only think of one reason why they would come out against using oil as our source of energy. And that one reason is because Republicans represent those moneyed interests. Republicans represent oil companies. I don't know how else to interpret this, honestly. It's just like so transparent. It's like with, oh my God, what was it? The Great Reset. The Great Reset is a concept created by the World Economic Forum. It's just like this big group that's designed to find problems in the world and tell rich people about them and fix those problems. Like there's a big polio epidemic in an African country, the Congo or something. So if we had like $50 million, we could put it into vaccines, polio vaccines, and solve this epidemic. So rich people like Bill Gates or Elon Musk or whoever come along and like donate like, $25 million each, a fraction of their revenue or their net worth, and they solve this polio problem. That's what it does. Now, when COVID hit, the World Economic Forum said, this is a good opportunity for us to like reset the world economies to be more favorable to the working class. And just like that, seemingly out of nowhere, conspiracies formed out of this. People started talking about the rich elites trying to, what is the Great Reset even about? This conspiracy. It's nuts. What are they even complaining about? It's like you can see pretty clearly when filthy rich people are kind of pushing a conspiracy further, in my opinion. Maybe that's my own personal low-stakes conspiracy. Filthy rich people are trying to create conspiracy theories that would be advantageous to them. Anyway, it's just like, it's embarrassingly stupid and sad. If we want to circle back around here, if we want to improve the country, if we want to make the United States stronger, we can do that by becoming energy independent.
The people who don't want you to have children because of the impact on the environment.
I could not possibly care less how many kids you have. We're going to reach an equilibrium in the near future anyway, where people are just going to stop having kids because they don't, it's just not economically viable for them, and it's not, it's not like ideal. It's difficult, and there aren't enough resources and all that. Like we're probably never going to reach like 12 billion, I think was the estimated number by scientists. We'll maybe reach 12 billion and then it's going to fall dramatically. It's already falling in China. There's a massive population crisis. It's a bad thing when populations decrease in a country. It means their economy is not growing.
Perhaps not everyone will make that connection, but after spending time in the international space trying to protect life, I can tell you that this is part of their ultimate goal, to control people. Let me share a
Like, why would they want to do that?
personal example of how the left seeks to permeate every dimension of life
Please, this is going to be
through
good.
their skewed terminology and definition. When I arrived at USAID, I had a career employee ask me how many children I had. I thought it was a bit odd of a question,
Yeah, why would somebody ask you that? Okay. I mean, what, were they just like being friendly?
but to be kind, I answered and I said I had 3 children. And he actually said to me, "Oh, wow, 1.5 too many for the environment."
Really? You're going to try to pass this off as a real story? Are you serious right now? I don't believe you. I just don't. I think she's making this up. This is complete nonsense, right? Like, I am in favor of finding solutions to climate change. And I would never say something so stupid. Like, it's not on her to solve the climate crisis. Anyway, I think, like, the population is going to even out. I think it's just going to. Like, people are going to realize, oh, like, we don't have enough space for more kids, so we're not going to have any more kids. That's never going to be a problem that needs to be solved, in my opinion. If people have, like, 12 kids and we already have like 15 billion people on the planet, for example, and just people will not fit and there isn't enough food, I think that equilibrium is going to be reached by prices. It's going to be too expensive for people to have more kids because they won't be able to feed those kids. So I don't worry about that at all, honestly. I don't think that's something we need to worry about at all. I think what we need to worry about is making companies stop using plastic straws, start using paper ones. Stop pollution in, like, what do you call it? Like, in corporate environments, you know, corporate pollution or whatever. Build electric vehicles more, improve the electric vehicle market. Find a way to build out like an electric 18-wheeler if we haven't already done that. Build out a fully electric power grid, like a fully renewable power grid. Hydroelectric dams, wind power, solar power, nuclear power. We just had a technological breakthrough that made it possible for us to build out a fully electrical grid. It was a battery problem previously. We didn't have any way of like storing that electricity long term, and that's now solved. It is possible for us to build out a fully renewable electric grid. France is between 68 and 75% nuclear, depending on the source. We can do it too. The EU altogether is 26% nuclear. Yeah, I heard about that. I think it's 26% renewable, right? I don't remember now, but yeah, Europe's doing really, really well. And you know what? They have that much more money to burn on something else, something more productive, something better. Why are we not doing this? This blows me away. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just don't believe her claim that like kids are... that somebody was complaining that she had too many kids. Like, what? The problem is we don't like to solve climate change, else we would have started 40 years ago. As long as the stock exchange exists, we can forget any climate goals. I don't know. I think we're moving that direction. And I think it's like, I think it's a, what do you call, like a machine that's moving in the right direction, and there's no reversing course. It's just going to happen. Big tobacco, you know, Philip Morris and these other companies, they're going to fail. That's just how it's going to play out. They have to find another, like, source of income, like Blockbuster. If they don't find another source of income other than cigarettes, they're going to fail just like Blockbuster did. It's a machine that's moving that can't be reversed now. Governments are banning cigarettes in more and more circumstances. Some of them, I think New Zealand tried to pass a ban on cigarettes so that people couldn't use or couldn't buy cigarettes if they're a certain age, and it keeps moving up with them. So, like, if you're 18, you'll never be able to buy cigarettes for the rest of your life, for example, in New Zealand. They may have reversed that, but that's an idea that's really interesting that's happening. You can't advertise for cigarettes on TV anymore, not in the US anyway. These companies will fail. We will succeed in going completely renewable. It's a matter of time. If there is enough political will behind it right now on a worldwide scale to accomplish this goal, just are we going to accomplish it quickly enough to mitigate the most disastrous effects? Humanity, killing most of humanity is easy. Killing all of humanity is like trying to kill cockroaches. It will not happen. Humans will never die out completely, not at least not until, the heat death of the universe or something, or at least until the sun goes supernova in billions of years. And even then, I don't believe that's going to happen. I think there will always be humans somewhere finding some way to survive. And you know what? If I'm wrong on that, you won't be able to tell me that I was wrong. So take that.
And he actually said to me, oh, wow, 1.5 too many for the environment.
It's so embarrassingly stupid.
If I could have 10 more children, I would.
Oh, so just being absolutely insufferable. Okay.
The policy book captures the essence of climate change. And I quote, in the name of combating climate change, policies have been used to create an artificial energy scarcity that will require.
What? Climate change has caused an artificial energy scarcity? Where the hell did you hear that?
Trillions of dollars in new investment, supported with taxpayer subsidies to address a problem that government and special interests themselves have created.
I mean, that's just nonsense. But honestly, what's the downside here? Energy independence is bad?
Page 364, end of quote. Population growth, environmental changes, and weather patterns have all been intertwined by the left. They take or even make up a term and create, extend, and alter the definition to validate whatever ideology or position they want to ingrain and convince others is good.
I mean, this is the Republican strategy right here. Accuse your enemy of doing what you intend to do and use that accusation as the basis for, or as the justification for your actions. They are using language to their benefit. They are trying to convince you that blah, 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 blah. So we have to do it too to stop them. This isn't happening. Nobody is doing this. No one is using language to their benefit or whatever to brainwash people, except for these people. We're watching it happen, like actively in front of us. They are doing this.
When in reality,
and they can't give us a single example of this genuinely, legitimately happening on the left.
When in reality, it's not. Often, as you just heard, they are simply not coherent or logical.
Who is they, by the way? Are they in the room with us right now?
Remember, our intelligence community identified climate change as the #1 threat to America.
Yes.
So even if you do not work at the Department of Energy, no matter where you work, because of the Biden administration's executive orders and policy priorities, you will have to look for climate change language and get rid of it.
Bethany.
They're trying to control language. That's what she's saying. Hypothetically speaking, let's assume that climate change is actually a problem that is actually dangerous to America. Suddenly, it changes from people nefariously trying to control others or whatever to these people trying to control others. They are using language to their benefit. This is nuts.
When you were talking about how the left has co-opted so many words and weaponized so many words when it comes
What words?
to abortion, and that's something that political appointees in the next administration are going to have to really look at, this idea that it's a right. There's many phrases that included rights.
Yeah, it's called bodily autonomy. That is a right, a human right that we have. We are allowed to make decisions for ourselves. Like, for example, kids should not have parts of their junk chopped off, right? I think we can all agree with that. We're doing it here in the United States anyway. That's a violation of bodily autonomy. We complain about female circumcision over there in, the Middle East, in African countries and things like that. And we recognize why that's wrong, because those people didn't have an opportunity to make decisions for themselves. They had that decision taken from them. But people don't connect the dots when it happens in other contexts. We shouldn't be violating people's bodily autonomy. Plain and simple.
Is there other places where rights are used as a catch-all and it means something else?
Katie, that's a great
Wow.
question. And
She says, are there other cases in which people talk about rights when it's not really rights? It's something else. Okay. Jesus Christ, dude. Somebody says, the Brat Print says, these videos are made for people who lack critical thinking skills. It's even worse than that. They aren't designed for people who lack critical thinking. They're intended for people who blindly do anything for the president, even if they know that it's wrong. I mean, there are a bunch of like PowerPoint slides in here that you can look at in these various videos. I took screenshots of them. And these PowerPoint slides say, assume that you have the legal right and do it anyway and ask questions later. If you don't, we will figure out how to solve this problem later on in court. They say things like that in these videos, in these training videos. These people aren't lacking critical thinking. They are lacking a moral compass.
in fact,
Like Donald Trump's moral compass is their moral compass, which means they don't have one at all.
number 3 is human rights. Human rights in border security. So rights, rights, rights. The left is always coming up with new rights.
I know, stupid left caring about rights, huh?
In the Trump administration, we countered human rights with unalienable rights. The careers went absolutely crazy at you.
Why would anybody care about you using the word inalienable rights rather than human rights? I don't understand. Am I missing something here? Why would anybody give a shit about that?
USAID. But thankfully, President Trump had established a commission on unalienable rights at the State Department, and we would just point back to the commission. Sadly, our founding documents were not sufficient, but thankfully the commission was. The Department of State's Commission on Unalienable Rights was charged with providing the U.S. government with advice on human rights grounded in our nation's founding principles and the principles of the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Talking about the UN Declaration of Human Rights? Was that from 1948? I mean, I actually like the UN Declaration of Human Rights pretty well. But as we go through time, as we like move forward and progress as a society, there are areas that we recognize as problematic that need to be corrected. Like new minority groups are identified as being like harmed by this thing or that thing, and it's a moral decision to make sure that people's human rights are not being violated under any circumstances. And it shouldn't be like a political thing, like, oh, these people, we have to prevent them from having rights because this thing or that thing, or it's politically advantageous for us to deny these people right now so that we... No, human rights are important. Human rights are human rights, and they should always be available to people. They're inalienable. You cannot take them away. You know why? Because they weren't granted by government in the first place. They're granted by something outside of government. Now, I was talking to my wife about this actually on this stream forever ago. She was explaining that concept, that human rights were not granted by government. That was the point of putting in the Declaration of Independence that, you know, our rights were given by our creator or whatever it was. It wasn't about our creator. It was about not getting them from government. And fascinatingly, I thought that these people just didn't understand that. But as it turns out, they do. One of these training videos describes that succinctly, that exact concept. Here we go. Yeah, right here. This is one of the training videos. Dude describes that concept flawlessly. So it isn't that these people genuinely believe that the Constitution was built on Christianity, as they claim, as David Barton claims specifically. It isn't that these people think that, you know, the founding fathers were Christian and that our rights were given to us by God. It isn't that. They recognize all of the concepts presented. They recognize that government was not the one who granted rights, but it was granted by like our natural state. They're just lying.
Ultimately, they chose to ground their claims upon nature, a more philosophically and more fundamental ground that was a defense of rights behind Magna Carta, behind and beyond the rights of Englishmen.
Magna Carta was a really old document from like, I think the 1300s maybe, and it was like the basis for a lot of our legal rights, basically. That's kind of one of the things the Constitution was built on.
Behind and beyond the rights of Englishmen, to their rights as humans. And so they turned to nature as the ground for the claim of rights.
You catching this? Fascinating, right? He recognizes, he knows.
The ground upon which they would make their claims of independence, the grounds upon which they would assert their rights as an independent nation. And it was this turn to nature that is classically represented in the Declaration of Independence, but seen throughout many of the documents developing from the 1760s to 1776. It's classically stated within the Declaration of Independence by reference to the laws of nature and nature's God, which is its...
Well, it's not and nature's God. It's just the laws of nature. We were granted this stuff automatically by birth, not by government. But okay, whatever. You want to stick nature's God in there? Fine. I don't give a shit. The point is that they know what this is based on, and they just lie about it constantly.
Self an incorporation of aspects of a much deeper and longer natural law tradition, going back to the Greeks and Romans, but also through English thinking, especially through thinkers like John Locke. Ultimately, they charge...
So not only are they aware that the rights laid out in the Declaration of Independence were not laid out as being granted by God, not only do they realize that that's a lie, but they also seem to realize that the Declaration of Independence and everything else was all based on the writings of like previous Greek philosophers and stuff in the Magna Carta. They just lie. I mean, we caught them in a lie here, right? All this shit from David Barton that he spews, and all of the Republican senators and Heritage Foundation workers and stuff that repeat it and repost all of his nonsense, they're lying. Hold on.
I want you to understand all that we've talked about with George Washington and our founding fathers and how we got our Constitution. It all goes back to Scripture. Everything that John Locke's two treatises of government, the Magna Carta, there's so much Scripture woven in there. If we will embrace what our founding fathers did, Greg, and with these documents that were not, I say they're not just penned by man, they're written by the divine hand of God. And some of these amendments, the Bill of Rights, those things are divinely inspired.
That's super weird because the First Amendment contradicts the First Commandment, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that they're lying. They know full well that this is not about God and the creator of the universe or whatever the thing. It's not about that. They know that. Anyway, let's continue on with this.
Government with advice on human rights grounded in our nation's founding principles and the principles of the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, I'm going to turn over border security to you, Katie, as it...
Oh boy, border security. I don't actually think that there's a problem with immigration. I think it's a really productive, good thing for an economy. It can be harmful to an economy if regulations don't kind of guide it, but having more people working in an economy is beneficial, like vastly beneficial. So I'm all in for immigration. It's fantastic. It's what makes this country great. However, Republicans, all right, let me rephrase. However, people tend to fear immigration deeply, and it's like a big thing. It's a massive like talking point in the United States right now. It's the thing that people care the most about, bizarrely. I think it's like number 2 on the list of like issues that the president's going to have to tackle eventually. I don't remember.
Deals with legalese.
And we all know that border security is a major issue, and the differences between a conservative presidency and administration and the current administration couldn't be more stark than...
Not really, no. Biden deported people, Trump deported people. I mean, every president deports people. In fact, Obama deported the most people, didn't he? This is just fictitious. It's not stark. It's made up.
In this area. So getting the words very precise and correct is crucial. The left has co-opted language and definitions as it relates to immigration. Illegal immigration is one of the most devastating challenges America faces today.
Not really.
Particularly when you factor in all of the secondary costs and effects of illegal immigration, including illicit drug and human trafficking.
Okay, fascinating. So those things aren't happening right now, but they will be happening under a system where immigrants can just come in and like apply for citizenship, I guess. Or they're not happening to any degree that we need to like worry about right now, but they will under that. Is there like any proof of what she's saying right now? Does she have any reason to say it, or is she trying to scare the shit out of people? It sure seems like she's trying to scare the shit out of people, and that's it.
The left knows the American people oppose illegal immigration and understands its effects.
It's true that, everybody opposes immigration like that. Unfortunately, it's a very strong issue for Republicans, even though they don't do anything more than Democrats when it comes down to it, because they don't care.
They have spent years using language designed to both conflate illegal immigration and legal immigration, the latter of which most Americans support, and soften the idea that illegal immigration is, in fact, illegal.
Okay, soften it? I mean, most of the quote-unquote illegal immigrants she's referring to are not immigrants, they're refugees. We talked about this earlier too, but refugees are people who come through humanitarian corridors and try to reach a UN refugee center. It's like international law. But these people, like, they don't care about that. They are going to weaponize it any way they possibly can. Try to make people think that they have more support than they do, and that, the left wants to ruin the country through this process and everything. They're really going to lean into immigration because this is actually a really big issue in the U.S. Like, people really care about this. Why? You've got me. I really don't know why people care so much about this issue.
It is a good bet that the left has focused group tested the language it uses to cover up the horrors of illegal immigration.
Horrors, the horrors of immigration. Wow. It's a fact that the left, focus tested this stuff or whatever? Okay, is there, literally any evidence of this at all? I'll take anything.
For example, when describing illegal immigration, the left likes to use words and phrases like undocumented immigrants.
Well, that's the technical term for it. That's what we're talking about. People can be undocumented and not illegally immigrate. In fact, to my knowledge, most people legally immigrated here or legally came here and let their visas expire after arriving. That's legally immigrating and then falling into undocumented status, right?
And migrants. These terms are designed to sound softer and take the edge off the fact that these people are illegally in the United States.
No, I mean, I think it's just designed to be more accurate. Just proxy, immigrants are 60% less likely to commit violent crimes over natural-born citizens, Northwestern University. Yeah, I heard about that, actually. But all that just goes right over people's heads, and they freak out about these little fringe issues like, you remember the term anchor babies? I think George Bush was using that. He was claiming that people come here, have a child, and then they can force the government to allow them access or whatever, to allow citizenship, whatever other thing. What were some of the other problems that these people claimed? Sanctuary cities. They claim that those are encouraging crime or whatever. It's just absurd all the way down.
It is important to note that they specifically avoid using the word alien, which is the terminology used in federal law.
I mean, I don't know what she's talking about. People avoid that word or whatever. I have never heard anybody say you shouldn't use the word alien. And if they're writing legal documents, then use legal terminology. I'm fine with that. But not for nothing, the term alien, illegal alien, was used to describe Jews in Germany by Hitler. That's what he got people upset about. That specific term, illegal alien, that is from Germany in the 20s and 30s.
To be clear, alien is not a negative or pejorative term.
Well, it sure was under Hitler.
It is a legal term of art. It simply means that an individual is not a citizen of a particular country. Language matters here for a lot of reasons, but primarily because citizens of the United States have rights.
I mean, wow. Okay, just lay it out there, why don't you? It matters if they're undocumented or documented, because documented people have rights. Citizens have rights.
That others, including foreign nationals who are illegally on our soil, do not.
And we don't want you to think that they have rights. We want you to realize that it's okay if we do whatever we want to them. In my personal opinion, I believe that rights should be extended to every living human being, not just U.S. citizens. Like, people should be allowed to use their right to free speech, their freedom of religion, their whatever, everything, just like everyone else, whether they're a citizen or not. Now, voting rights, obviously not. Nobody believes that undocumented immigrants should be able to vote, and they can't legally vote either. Logistically, they can't. They can't even register to vote. What would they put down for their permanent address? And how would they present an ID? They don't even have an ID if they're undocumented. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, most rights in the Bill of Rights or in the Constitution are human rights that were granted not by government, but outside of government. That's what I'm getting at here. And they know that. These people are finding reasons or finding excuses to hurt others that they don't like.
Illegally on our soil do not. If I had to guess, I would say that the left's attempt to wash away the term alien stems from their disdain of actual law, since they want to avoid discussion of what federal immigration law actually requires, which is everything they refuse to do, and their interest in washing away the overall value of citizenship. Remember, citizenship.
Wow, you should be privileged as a citizen. You should, immigrants should be, like green card holders who are not citizens, they should be treated as second-class citizens. They should be devalued, and they should be subject to things that Americans are not subjected to. They should not have all of the rights that U.S. citizens have. That is psychotic. And again, like, I don't want to keep bringing it back to this, but the environment in the United States right now is exactly the same as it was in the 1920s. Exactly the same. Same shit. Like, all this stuff about illegal immigration, it all existed there. The immigrants there were Jews.
Gone through the appropriate process for obtaining a visa to enter the United States or otherwise followed United States law to enter the United States, they are illegally here. Period. Hard stop. Calling illegal aliens undocumented immigrants
is a more accurate term that doesn't use quote-unquote terms of art or whatever she wants to call it, and is easier to understand for like normal average people who aren't lawyers.
Is the intellectual equivalent of calling someone who breaks into your house in the middle of the night an undocumented homeowner.
No, that's not what it is.
It is inaccurate, and it is designed to be inaccurate.
No, it isn't. Oh my God. She's trying to make it out like every illegal immigrant, quote unquote, broke into the country in the middle of the night, slipping over a border secretly to like smuggle drugs in. And when they got here, they're like, yeah, you know, I might as well stay. And while I'm here, I'm going to steal a bunch of shit. That's what she's trying to portray. That is not what happens. Oh my God. Undocumented immigrants are individuals who have either illegally entered the United States without inspection, which of course covers like a lot of, people are allowed to come into the U.S. without, like getting paperwork or getting a visa or anything. It's just they have to go straight to a UN refugee center and apply for asylum status. That's what the without inspection bit means, I guess. Individuals have either illegally entered the U.S. without inspection or legally entered the U.S. with valid non-immigrant visas, but those visas have expired. For instance, an individual issued a student F1 visa can become undocumented if they do not fulfill the minimum course of study requirement or if they work out authorization, Section 8 CFR subsection 214.2F. In addition to that, I could be wrong here. I probably shouldn't even say it unless I'm sure of it, but I believe that the majority of undocumented people in the United States are from European countries, or from like, they're not from Mexico or, South America or whatever, but Trump supporters and Republicans generally only ever talk about the ones that are like coming over the border in Mexico. You ever notice that? They think they can build a border wall to stop immigration, and that's not like a solution to it in any way.
The term migrants or migration are just as deceptive. The left likes to use migrants and migration not only because it sounds gentle, but it also creates confusion.
No, it's just accurate. What are you talking about? The left doesn't like to use anything, quote unquote. It's the right that's trying to cram these words down people's throats, illegal alien and illegal immigrant and all of that stuff. This is the whole bit. Reverse victim and offender. Accuse the other person of what you are doing.
When people hear these terms, they know deep down that migration is seasonal and circular. They think of birds or butterflies. They fly
Okay, I don't think of those things.
south, they fly north, and so on. And historically, we have had foreign nationals come into the United States for seasonal or agricultural work and then return to their home countries. It would be reasonable and accurate to refer to those individuals as migrant workers because they ultimately return home. But make no mistake, the current mass illegal immigration we are seeing as a result of the Biden administration's intentional actions is not migration, and these people are not migrants. It is an
She's acting like these words have just been invented, like by the left, like 2 weeks ago or something. These words have been used throughout history in all different languages. Immigrant means somebody who moves from one place to another. Emigrant, E-M-I-G-R-A-N-T, is someone who leaves a country to go to another area. I mean, I learned these terms in like elementary school or something. Are you serious?
not migrants. It is an orchestrated invasion being led by the Biden administration in conjunction with the Mexican cartels. The bottom line is, we win or lose political fights based on language. If you let the other side of the debate set the terms of the debate, you've already lost. In the
That's accurate.
context of immigration specifically, we have to start using more accurate language to describe what is going on.
I mean, you understand what she just said, right? She said, if you let the other side set the terms of the debate, you've lost. So we're going to set the terms of the debate. We're going to start doing the things that I'm complaining about so that they can't do it first. So they can't set the terms of the debate.
And pegging our language to existing
Doing what to our language?
law. If we can take back the language here and elsewhere, we will win more of these fights. So Bethany, I mean, these are some great examples. And another one that comes to my mind that has been completely co-opted by the left is gender.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to have to stop it there. That's a good stopping point. Anyway, tell me what you think about this in the comments. This is nuts, dude. These people are so transparently full of it. And they're so stiff and stale and weird, right? They have zero emotion on their face. Zero emotion in their voice in anything. It's just bizarre. Is this how they normally act? Why didn't they get somebody who knows how to sit in front of a camera and talk? Like, holy shit, man. Tell me what you think.